Welcome to the South Texas Football Unlimited High School Football Podcast, part of the Lone Star Gridiron Sports Network. Today, guys, we've got our foray Division I breakdowns, District 15 foray and 16 foray, including a quick interview with Coach Chris Souza of the Beeville Trojans. You don't want to miss this episode. It's a good one. It's our first foray into the Valley District, so bear with us as we're still kind of getting our feet wet with that district. As always, guys, we hope you enjoy the episode, and we hope you keep listening. Tell your friends.
Hey, did you know that Lone Star Gridiron does mini helmets? Yeah, custom designed mini helmets that match your school. When quality and attention to detail are important, choose authentic Lone Star Gridiron mini helmets. Our library currently has hundreds of different Texas high school football teams. If you don't see your helmet, reach out to us about creating one. And hey, they make the coolest fundraisers for your booster clubs. Go to LoneStarGridiron.com and look for mini helmets on the top menu bar.
Thanks for tuning in. This is our 15 foray Division I district breakdown. Last year, we didn't spend a whole lot of time on this district, but this year we said, what the hell, man? We'll go ahead and spend a little more time on it. With us in studio again, we're slowly getting the band back together. Tim's back with us today. It's minus the snack count in this episode. Welcome back, Tim.
Oh, good to be back.
Snacks on a hiatus, dude.
It's like Tim just woke up out of hibernation. He's like a bear.
I haven't gone to sleep yet, so that's why I was.
Wow.
I took like an hour-long nap after I texted you, and I was like, oh, shit.
So what have you been up to, Tim?
Nothing. Nothing at all.
Banging energy drinks and TV, right?
Yeah.
Oh, man. All right, so this district kind of took us by surprise last year. I don't think anybody outside of Vernia saw the season that they had this year coming. It was pretty interesting. They were led by a pretty special quarterback, which we'll get into later. But they set the pace. I mean, they were world beaters up until the playoffs. And I think that loss they had in the playoffs, well, we'll get to it in a little bit. We won't even talk about that yet. Let's lead off with the Boerne Greyhounds. Tim, you want to pull Boerne up?
Yep.
See what kind of information we got. So Boerne, they've got 36 lettermen coming back, 23 gone, 4-4 coming back on both sides of the ball off a 9-3 area finalist, 3-1 district. They're coached by Che Hendricks? Che? Like
Che or
like,
Shay?
Shay?
Maybe Shay.
Che? Pam? Pam?
I'd probably say Chi.
Well, I see that. I think Che Guevara, right? So,
yeah.
So I think Che. You Boerne guys correct us. We're probably wrong. We hadn't talked about this at all this year, but we are a non-fact-checking podcast. We got to bring that up again. So if we're wrong, we're wrong. But even if we are wrong and you correct us, we're probably still going to stick with Che. Sorry, Coach.
Yeah.
Boerne loses a lot, right?
Do they really, though?
Well, they lose a quarterback, Cole Boyd, who, what did he throw for, Tim? Did we see that? He put up a lot of yards.
I'll have to get back to you on that.
Okay. Well, they lose a lot, right? They lose Douglas Hondo, who's going to Texas as a wide receiver. They lose Colton Poole. Maybe that's him, Colton Poole, who's going to Air Force. Julio Riggs going to Paris Junior College. Paul Emick, Central Arkansas. And Monty Cluck. So they lose quite a bit, right? And they got 4-4. They're losing their starting quarterback. They've got an up-and-comer in Rashawn Galloway, who's going to step in behind center, under center.
I think the fact that Rashawn Galloway got some experience in the playoffs, they say he threw for 3 touchdown passes, and the coach seems to think he's going to be the next big thing at Boerne. I think you're going to have to lean with that. And to me, we're going to get down to it later on in the show. I think this is kind of a weak district outside of Vernia, with the fact that Beeville's got a new coach, Gonzales has a new coach, Pleasanton has been historically on the lower end, and with a quarterback, sounds like he might be a dual threat kid, be able to throw the ball. He's got 4 coming back with him on offense, so he's probably the 5th starter, and then you got 4 on defense. You're not so much as in a complete rebuild. You might, you never know. They could have some key pieces on both sides of the ball to help them push forward, I think the biggest challenge for them is going to be getting past Vernia again. You have
one of the things I did notice, and it's a blessing when you're breaking in a quarterback, they got the whole offensive line coming back.
Okay, see.
They got all 4 starters coming back, and those are the 4 that are coming back on the offensive side. So you got your line that's coming back. As a starter, they've got, 36 lettermen, so they've got kids that have played. They've got the varsity experience.
To me, what was surprising to see, you had 59 kids on that team last year in a foray. I mean, that's pretty good numbers.
Well, they've got the biggest enrollment. They've got the biggest enrollment in the district at 1,099 kids.
Yeah.
So you would hope those numbers translate to numbers on the football field. You would hope.
Well, and then at the same time, you have Bernie Champion right up the road taking numbers from you.
Who's taking numbers from you?
Who, if a lot of people don't remember, before Champion came along, Bernie was the premier team in 4A.
Yes.
Back when it was just 5A, 4A, 3A, 2A. And they made a lot of good runs, football and baseball. So the pedigree to be a good team is always there, I think. They have athletes. Bernie Champion's usually a 3 to 4 round team anyways in baseball and football. So I think the fact that you got your offensive line coming back, you have a quarterback that got a little bit of experience in the playoffs, so he's not going to be having to be like right off the bat, this is first game ever on varsity, and the coach seems to believe in him. So I think Bernie's going to have a pretty tough team to beat. I think they'll make a playoff run. I'm not taking them over Vernia yet, but they can make that game interesting.
Well, this district, they've got 5 teams in the district, so it's a battle for that 4th spot.
Oh, definitely.
Right. So somebody's going to be left out in the cold. I think you'll figure that out pretty quick. I'd say before you even get into the district, you're going to figure out who that odd man out in this district's going to be. You got anything else on Bernie?
I have nothing else left on Bernie.
Okay, so next up we got...
They beat Vernia last year.
Bernie beat Vernia last year? What was the score?
46-45.
Well, that had to have been a look-ahead game. It had to have been, right?
I'm pretty sure we covered it. We
might have, right? We'll have to check the tape.
There was a couple of games that were super close.
I know. I remember this district last year was very.
Was it towards the end of the year? Because that's when we started looking at this.
This district was very. It was like a bowl of spaghetti, right?
Yeah, it was all up and down. Somebody
Beeville lost to Gonzales. They shouldn't have lost to Gonzales. So I just think it was just a weird district last year.
Yeah, it could have been right. That 5. Who knows, dude? We'll see. Right, but I think, my opinion, I think it'll shake out before we get into district on who's going to miss the playoffs. That's just what I think. Next up, we got Gonzales, the Gonzales Apaches. New head coach there, Mike Waldy, Mike Waldy, who's coming over from Pearland. He was the offensive coordinator. Coming back, they've got 11 lettermen returning, 31 lost. 3-3 coming back on the offensive defense side of the ball off a 6-6 area finalist, 3-1 in district. So Gonzales finished 3-1 in district. It kind of ended up like our District 15 5A. It sounds like last year. Now it's all coming back to me where everybody was beating everybody except that one standout team.
Yes.
And it was a fight for that last spot in the playoffs.
Well, they're bringing only back 3 on the offense and 3 on the defense. That's a lot to have to deal with. That's 8 starters on both sides you're going to have to replace for a first-year head coach at Gonzales. That's pretty big stepping stone to get past, I think. The good note for that is the fact they got center, an offensive tackle coming back, so you got some experience on the line, which is always clutch. You have a defensive end, Williamson, who had all-state honors last year, and he's going to lead the defense. You have a free safety, Henneke, a linebacker box, and another defensive end returning for him. So I think they'll be solid on the defensive end of the ball. I just think they might have some growing pains offensively with only two starting linemen coming back, and then the rest of the offense is pretty much a free-for-all. You have a running back coming off injury, but you never know how that's going to play out considering the fact he was injured last year.
Well, I might have to disagree with you there because if you look, they've got 11 returning lettermen total. 11 returning lettermen, right? That's including your 3-3 on both sides of the ball. I think you may have some standout players on the defensive side of the ball. I don't think those 3 are going to be enough to anchor it. It's going to be interesting. I could be wrong, and I hope Gonzales proves me wrong because I'm always a fan of the little guy. They have the smallest enrollment in the district. I actually don't know. I've got to look at the cutoff numbers. I don't know how they're not D2 with the 793 enrollment. Everybody else is in the thousands.
They're probably right on that cutoff line.
Yeah, so that's pretty interesting. And I'm a fan of the little guy, so that mainly because I am one.
What defines a little guy? Where because 6'3" guys and anyone below them is a little guy.
Yeah,
6 foot guys.
Well, you got to go
way.
off of the average.
So what's the little guy? 5'5" and low.
The average height.
What,
in America is
5'10"?
5'9".
Oh, 5'9".
yeah. So I'd
Above
say
average.
Yeah. Who, you?
Around the belt line in the height.
I was gonna say girth wise, yeah, probably.
So what's little guy?
I would say 5'5" and under, right?
Are you 5'5"?
I'm 5'3".
I'm sorry.
Rosenbaum's 5'5", right? 5'4".
That's what he says.
Hey, did that piss you off?
He's like 5'3".
Did that piss you off just a little bit, knowing he was just a tad taller than you?
He doesn't
Nah,
care
not
because he's
really.
taller than Johnny.
Yeah.
Oh, as long as you got someone below you, right?
Yeah, so it doesn't matter. So yeah, that's Gonzales. It's gonna be interesting to see how they're gonna come back. 3-1.
I actually kind of take back what I first said.
They beat Bernie last year.
I don't think Gonzales is gonna make. I don't think Gonzales is gonna make playoffs this year. I'm gonna say that right now.
Okay, so you think it's gonna come down between Gonzales and Pleasanton for that last spot?
Yes.
And again, it'll all shake itself out. Who does Gonzales have on the preseason slate, Tim? Or
let's see.
pre-district, not preseason.
Geronimo, Navarro,
Okay, they're pretty decent. They had a good run last year.
Austin, Crockett, Yoakum,
I think you're.
Cuero, Hondo.
Dude. Okay, so you can't really
They play
gauge
Murderers
it.
Row.
You can't really gauge it before the season starts on how Gonzales is going to do because they're playing some stacked
Geronimo
teams.
Navarro, who's what is a class 3A?
They're a big 3A.
They might be 4.
Are they?
It might be 4A D2.
As I flip pages, you hear it.
Just keep talking.
Yeah, go ahead. Tim. Keep going. Or keep going.
Navarro is a top 10 team almost every year. They're a solid team. They run the ball.
4A Division
Yeah,
2.
4A Division 2. They're in Cuero's
They're
district.
probably ranked as well. Cuero, come off a state run right there. But to me, that's 2 tough opponents right in the bat. Yoakum is no slouch.
Yeah, so you're not going to be able to gauge these guys off the preseason.
No.
So we'll figure it out. It could be another Armageddon season for District 15 4A. And then we've got the bully. Right, the bully comes up. The bully from last year, anyways, right? The Vernia Bears. Coach Chris Tabor got 17 coming back, losing 27, 8-5 on both sides of the ball for 12-2 regional finals, 3-1 in district. And there's that loss, right? That loss to Boerne. Yeah, looking at this now, everybody had a loss in district. Everybody had one loss.
I mean,
Beeville had 3.
Yeah,
and Pleasanton had 4.
Yeah, 5 teams. So, I mean,
Yeah,
that's
so
kind of expected.
is it though? I mean, if you're that dominant, you should be. I mean, look at Refugio, right? I mean, that's not really fair.
Yeah, but
I
they
would have
probably.
thought Lavernia would have ran through this district.
Yeah,
I would have.
they-
It must have been a look ahead game. It had to have been a look ahead game, right?
Probably exactly what happened.
Maybe they rested their starters. Who knows, right? I don't know. Anyways, so Boerne, they've got a lot coming back, but they lose some key pieces. I'm sorry,
Lavernia?
Lavernia. They lose some key pieces, right? They lost Clayton Chadwick, who's a 2,700-yard passer and a 1,500-yard rusher.
Yeah.
That was their quarterback, and he was the machine, obviously, that drove that offense. So whoever's filling in for him, and in this case, it looks like Gage Lowry has got some pretty big shoes to fill.
Gage Lowry is going to benefit from the fact that you have wide receiver Dulac coming back with 55 catches last year, 918 yards and 9 touchdowns. That's a massive offensive target.
Yeah.
You're going to have running back Mendoza, who a lot of people have already pegged as the district MVP. He had 1170 on the ground with 13 touchdowns rushing. So that's 2 big pieces that quarterback Lowry is going to be able to rely on. He got to sit and watch Clayton Chadwick last year, so he's going to probably learn from the system. It's always nice when you have a guy like that was experienced and performed real well on the field. You probably should have taken back some of his traits. I think Coach Chris Tabor's got a pretty solid team all around. Returning 8 on the offensive side of the ball and only using 6 defensively. That might be the weak point for them going forward, but I think they're going to be able to outscore a lot of opponents, which I think we saw them put up a lot of numbers last year in their games. They were scoring 40-something points a game. So I think the fact that you're going to have a new quarterback, but he's still going to have some pretty big key weapons with him, and he's going to be bringing back a couple linemen up front. They're going to be solid.
I would like to see how these guys' JV teams did. Because you can kind of gauge how. Kind of. It doesn't always necessarily translate, but you can kind of gauge the future success of some of these teams based on how that JV's doing and some of the standout players they had there. Maybe we should start a magazine.
Right?
Ghost Coast Sports Authority, JV, Texas football or something, right? Something like that. We'll figure something out, right?
Gulf Coast Sports Authority.
Gulf Coast Sports Authority, right?
Another key note, too, is you're going to have linebacker Ty Halsey coming back. He had 113 tackles. So putting him in there with those 5 returners, that should help. Well, the other 4 guys, that should help anchor this team. I mean,
it's a good start.
Vernia should win this district. Vernia should win this district.
Well, I don't know, man.
Look at the numbers. Well, don't be that guy of the day.
Keyword there, sure. I'm going to be that guy when we get there. All right.
They have a weird guy as offensive lineman. I was just looking at it. He's 5'11" and 195.
That's a Coastal Bend. That's a Coastal Bend offensive line. Right. You got anything else on Vernia, Tim? All right. So next up is the Pleasanton Eagles. Eagles, and I think you kind of hit on them already, right? Stephen Liska is the head coach. He's got 22 lettermen returning, 19 lost, 4-4 coming back on both sides of the ball for 5-5, 0-4 district. Their big loss is Johnny Zamora, who's going to Hastings. I really didn't do a lot of homework on Pleasanton. I think it's going to be a tough road.
Well, I think a keynote is you're going to be bringing in a receiver to quarterback this year.
And you know,
there's always going to be some growing pains there.
That's the trend. We got a few of those coming back on the Coastal Bend.
He's got a receiver to throw to, though, Dalton Hobbs. He had 56 catches last year, 1,300 yards, 17 touchdowns. And then they have the running back Joel Valdez, 539 yards, 6 touchdowns rushing. And he's also going to be sharing the duties with Joel Arevalo. How do you say that?
Acevedo? No, wait, that's the new guy.
Arevalo.
Arevalo? I think that's how you say Arevalo. Yeah.
Valdez will be sharing the running back duties with Arevalo, who had 221 yards, 5 touchdowns, and he played extensively as a freshman. So they do have a little bit of experience coming back. Linebacker, what's his name? Where did I miss it?
Cass Campbell?
It's Cass. Linebacker Cass Campbell, 71 tackles, 1 sack, and cornerback Ashton Thompson, who started as a sophomore, will lead the defense. So I kind of got Pleasanton to make that hump this year and get the playoff run.
You know, they had, considering what they did in 2017, they must have lost a lot because in 17 they were 10-2 overall and 4-1. So it makes you ask the question, what happened last year, right?
Yeah, a lot of a new coach. I'm not sure how long Liska's been there.
Yeah, but
considering I've been covering him that long,
that's a big drop off going 10-2 and going 5-5. You know,
they just had a shitty season though. They started off really strong. They won 5 games in a row and then they lost the next 5.
Yeah, I mean they started off hot. Who did they start off with, Tim?
Edison.
San Antonio Edison. Okay, not really a known football power.
Lanier,
another San Antonio school, not known as a football power.
Pearsall
is, I think they're D2, foray D2.
Yeah.
Devine.
Foray D2.
And then Carrizo Springs,
who had a pretty bad year last year. Mm-hmm. Okay, so it explains.
With the first-year head coach.
Cockrell? He wasn't a first year, was he?
I thought he was.
I don't know about that. That's something I'll have to double-check on. I know he's not coaching this year. He took a job within the district. Right? Yeah. But yeah, that Johnny Zamora, for losing season, he had a very good year last year. 2,700 yards in the air and 289 on the ground. So, I mean, you're losing a big piece of your offense there. Oh, yeah. I think the struggles continue for Pleasanton this year. I mean, that's weird how they jump year this high, unless they had a very strong senior class, right? I mean, that's the only thing that I can think of.
Could be.
All right, and up to our last team. Obviously, the first alphabetical order, but it's the last here because we've got a little interview with former Medina Valley head coach, athletic director, new Beeville head football coach, athletic director, Chris Souza, returning back to Beeville. I'm not going to say where he started because I think he started in Mathis, right? Started in Mathis, took the Pirates to state, went to Beeville, and as you like to bring up all the time, took Lake Travis to the wire.
To the wire.
He's coming back to Beeville. If you guys have been under a rock the past 2 months from when he came over from Medina Valley, he's bringing his son over with him as the offensive coordinator, who's also, we'll have him on the show as well. We're not going to spend too much time on Beeville. We're going to let the Sozas give their take on what they think. I know they're not going to give how they think they're going to finish and whatnot, but he's going to give us a little insight on what they have in store and what it feels like to come back, right? So let's go ahead and talk about Beeville just for a second. Well, go ahead, Tim. Spud.
I think the big note is Seth Gomez coming back at quarterback. He was huge for Coach Bomar, who left. He had 1,381 yards and 16 touchdowns passing, 965 yards rushing, 17 touchdowns before
breaking, and it was breaking his leg. It wasn't something where he pulled a hammy or something. He broke his leg,
and he was on a roll. I think he was putting up each week, right up until that injury, about 400 to 500 yards total offense.
He was up for a player of the week every week.
Probably 300 to 400 yards total offense is realistic. Donnie Gibbons was his big man, who's no longer there, but they are going to be returning 10 on the offensive side of the ball, and they only lose 5 on the defensive side of the ball. So I think that's going to be the keynote, though, for Coach Sosa, is going to be getting Seth Gomez the ball in his hands and making him utilize that offense that Coach Sosa likes to run.
These numbers are very similar to a team we just covered on our show, our Big 5A show, the Miller Bucks. They lose one key player who was a big wide receiver, came up big for them. Miller, same thing. They lost Bubba Lloyd, but they've got plenty of guys that can step in that role. Their defense, obviously, what were their average margins of losses there, Tim? If you want to pull up, I'm just ballparking. Were they close losses? Were they?
Let's see, 14, 15. Usually, I would say probably about 10 points average.
Hey, they took a very strong Feria team down to the wire in the first round of the playoffs, 28-25.
Without quarterback
Seth Gomez, right? So now you've got, and we've said this all along, even when we had Jeff Duroff on last week, Beeville's ready to win.
Oh, yeah.
You were saying you think Lavernia's going to take the district. I think these guys are going to take the district. Obviously, they're going to switch, right? Because Coach Sosa is a big running guy, right? They run the wing T, slot T.
I believe it's the slot T, but he throws out of it a lot.
Man, and that's what I was going to say.
Which comes back to Seth Gomez. I think I watched his son Eric play all through high school because we always had him on the schedule, and they ran the ball a lot. But Eric also dropped back out of that wing T or slot T or used a lot of rollouts, and he was able to connect big downfield because you got guys keying in on that wing T, slot T. So I think that's where Seth Gomez is going to make his money.
And you know who we saw run that to eerily perfection last year? Wagner. Right, exactly. That's what I think of when...
The only thing with Wagner was they had more of a triple option.
They did.
They ran more of a veer, but it's the same concept, right? You suck the defense in with the run, and then you kill them deep. And then Port Lavaca tries to do that as well, but they've never really had that big of a passing game like Beeville has in the past. So yeah. I think with Seth Gomez's arm talent and his speed... I do think that's a really good fit for him still, and a really, really nice piece for Coach Sosa to get back in his first year here in Beeville.
And we'll go ahead and cut it there. We'll go ahead and turn it over to the Sosas, and then we'll check back in after the interview and give our final closing thoughts.
Always getting in trouble, leaving them girls that hate to see me go.
So we just finished our big foray breakdowns, and just like we said, we didn't go too in-depth on Beeville because we had a little something special for y'all today. Joining us today to discuss the Beeville program and expectations and whatnot is Coach Chris Sosa, coming home to Beeville along with his son, Eric. If you guys aren't familiar with Eric, he was a former Beeville quarterback, went on to UTSA and did some great things there. We'll get into what Eric did at UTSA and what led him down the road to follow his father in the coaching tree and in the family. Thanks for allowing us to take up some of your time and pick your brain a little bit on what it's like to be back at Beeville and just talk about your coaching journey as a whole. How you doing this morning, Coach?
We're doing great, man, and thanks for having us, Jacob. This is sure is a pleasure, and we'll get closer to football season here. We're excited, and we're talking about football, so thank you for having us.
Yep, thanks. Glad to be here.
Coach Sosa, I guess a little bit. I'm from Portland, so I was familiar with your work in Beeville. I think Eric was 2 or 3 years older than me, so I remember watching his little run there through high school and whatnot and stuff. And I've been talking to Jacob. Y'all run your offense. It's a slot T. Am I hitting that right? A slot T, and y'all throw out of it a little bit here and there.
Yeah, we're I consider ourselves a multiple slot T offense. Way back, when I was in high school, we ran in the wing T offense under LG Henderson. He was my head coach, and a lot of the terminology that I've used, it kind of stems from him and what I used in high school. And working with Coach Davenport, who worked with Coach Bruce Bush, we picked up on the slot T. And as a head coach, and I was in Mathis, Sinton, I came and met up with Coach Davenport in Sinton, and I became head coach and AD in Mathis, and I continued it. And we've kind of evolved the slot T into a multiple offense where we do some spread as well. And but the bread and butter of our offense is the slot T, and people have to really work hard to stop that first. But if we have the kids to do the spread offense and that kind of thing, then we're going to do that. And I think it makes us that much better when we're multiple.
Well, you with something that we have talked about what you did there when Eric was your quarterback was that variation of not just running the slot T, because Eric chucked the ball around a lot, and you've got a good thrower coming back this year. So, just us talking is like, man, it's probably going to be a repeat of what we've seen before. And I'm not saying that as a bad thing. If anything, it's a bad thing for the rest of the district is what I think. But, looking at what happened with Beeville last year, I mean, they lost their quarterback at the beginning of the year to the leg injury and was gone for the rest of the season, but they still produced very well. So now you've got a healthy quarterback coming back. You've got a solid core coming back. I think you guys are listed as 10 offensive starters coming back, and you lose one, which is a big one, Donnie Givens, but you've guys got some guys that are ready to fill those shoes. So we're kind of excited of what you guys have coming back this year.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Coach Bomar left us in good shape here. We have a lot of talents here as far as the skill positions and offensive line. So it's really a pleasant surprise coming in here. Our quarterback, Seth, he's done a tremendous job this offseason. He's a big, strong kid, and we're sort of going to take advantage of his arm and his legs. So we're blessed. So, we're going to be able to, have the best of both worlds and implementing the slot T, but then, of course, keeping up with the spread offense that they run and use some of those things to help us. I think it can only be, good for us in that respect. So we'll build upon that, and hopefully after 6 non-district games, we'll be ready for our district competition.
So, Coach, what kind of led to y'all's decision to come back down to Beeville and leave Medina Valley? Was it just the challenge of coming back down here and winning some ball games, or just being closer down to where you're originally from?
Well, my hometown is Alice, Texas, and my mom still lives there at the ranch. And, I've coached most of my career down in South Texas, other than my first 4 years when I was in Palacios, Texas, there on the coast. But you know what? We were here 10 years ago. Beeville was really, really good to us. My daughter graduated from here, and my son graduated from here. They got a good education. We had some fond memories here. So, coming back was easy. Now, we were in Medina Valley, and we were happy there. It was a good thing there in Medina Valley, San Antonio area. We had a great team, I think, coming back this next year, being that it was going to be our 4th year. So it made it tough. But when they come calling, and Dr. Puig, the superintendent, talked to me, and people from the community here, call me up, and it's weird, to be coming back, because most coaches leave and don't ever come back. But it's a blessing for me and my family. They wanted Eric to come coach here. They wanted Felicia to come teach and coach here. So as a dad, I couldn't be more proud to have two of my kids coaching with us, and to have a community that's welcomed us with open arms like they have, and to have the kids here respond to us like they've had. It was an easy decision, honestly, to come back to a place that was good to us to begin with, and now we're coming back here, and hopefully, we can do some good things here while we're here.
I have to ask, Coach, when word came down that you were coming back, I think you could hear the town yelling from San Pat County that you were coming back. So did they give you a key to the city? That's what we heard. We heard they gave you a key to the city.
Well, not exactly a key, but I tell you what, everywhere we go here, we feel so welcomed, just so blessed to be in a place that, number one, education is important. We have great staff here. I got great administration, and I got coaches that have worked with me before that wanted to come back here. I hired some guys that have been with me the first time around. Coach Dominguez, Adolfo Dominguez, who was actually from Beeville. He was a Skidmore. He wanted to come back right away. Coach Joseph Alvarado, who was with me here the first time, went with me to Alice, and he was with me in Medina Valley. He came with me. I got Coach Greg Gonzales, who's coached with me the first time here. You know, he wanted to come here. So, you know, when coaches want to go back to a place that they've been to before, you know, that says a lot about that community and that district. So, like I said, I'm blessed to be back to a place that, you know, appreciated the job we did the first time around, and hopefully we can live up to that and those expectations and take this program to another level.
You know, that's a very good point, because you did leave on a very successful note. Do you feel anything that any added pressure that you've got to live up to the expectations that you set before?
You know, no, not really. You know, my philosophy has always been, you know, we're going to work the kids hard. We're going to have high expectations for them in the classroom, on the field of competition. We want our young men and women to represent our community and our school district. And you know, as long as they work hard in preparation for that game, I really believe that the game, you know, the wins and losses take care of themselves. So the pressure that we put on ourselves as coaches, you know, that's the pressure. You know, we as coaches, we want to do well. We want to compete. We want to advance in the playoffs and do all those things. But everywhere that I've been blessed enough to know that, you know what, we get the most out of our kids, and you know, the chips will fall where they may. But that's our job as coaches, prepare these kids for the future to become, you know, successful young men and women. And if we can do that and in the process win some games, which happens naturally, I think if you do those things right, those things would take care of themselves, I'm sure.
So, Coach, you know, we've kind of hit on your offensive side of the ball, and you know, I'm pretty sure Eric is extremely familiar with that offense that y'all like to run. Defensively, what type of schemes are y'all going to be bringing to the table, or we can see from y'all?
Well, you know, we're going to change up a little bit. You know, Coach Zane Brown, who I just had the privilege of meeting just a couple of months ago and interviewing and talking to him, he actually coached here year before last. And he's a young coach out of college. He went to Texas A&M Kingsville. They play ball down there, and I was just impressed with his knowledge of football and the things that he's done. But we're going to run a 3-4 defensive front look, which has been different. You know, we traditionally were a weak eagle defense, and then last year we were a 4-2-5 defense. So he's got a good scheme, got some good ideas, and you know, we're going to be an aggressive defense that you know, is going to fly to the football and make some plays. So it's exciting to have young coaches, and basically it's the same defense they ran last year, so they're familiar with it already. They've been running it, so the kids, it's not brand new to them. So we're excited, and we think we'll do well. Good things there on defense too.
So Eric, this question's for you. You were kind of on the fast track to, just looking at your coaching history, you were kind of on the fast track to get into college coaching. Weren't you a graduate assistant on the University of Houston staff?
Yeah, I was there for at University of Houston for 2 years. 1 year under Coach Levine, and then 1 year under with Coach Herman. And it was a great experience. I was working with the offensive line that second year with Coach Herman. Was able to win a conference championship and go to the Peach Bowl, play Florida State. And then I worked under Coach Wareheim with the offensive line, and kind of learned a lot. As a quarterback, you know kind of the blocking schemes, you know all that, but you don't really appreciate what the offensive linemen kind of do. So being able to work under him, know and learn the grind that those guys take, the steps, the little nuances of what an offensive lineman does, that benefited me really well. And then after 2 years, it was kind of one of those things where my GA-ship was over. It was going to be I could have stayed at Houston to work with recruiting, but with a lot of prayer with me and my wife, I just had my first daughter during that second year at Houston, and a lot of prayer, and just felt that God was calling me to go to the high school ranks. And it was a tough decision, but a decision that 4 years later, I'm pretty happy that I made. I'm able to work with a pretty cool boss, I think. He's not too bad. Thanksgiving is always fun. So it's been a good ride. Appreciate all all the experiences that I was able to do at Houston and at UTSA. But I think I'm pretty happy right now at the high school ranks.
So going back to UTSA, I've got to ask, how did it feel to score that first touchdown for the program?
Oh, I get that question quite a bit, and to be honest, it was just like a zone read, and I pulled it, and the defense kind of over pursued, so just kind of ran in for 10 yards. And if you would have asked me if I was going to be the first one to score a touchdown, I would have said you're crazy. But it was great. The 4 years that I was there at UTSA was some of the best years of my life. I made longtime friends, playing with them, and it's just a great experience. And that whole play, in a sense, was kind of a blur, but it was pretty special.
Eric, you didn't originally start out at UTSA, correct? Didn't you originally go to Texas State?
Yes, out of high school. Yeah, I signed at Texas State. Was there for a year. I redshirted. The offensive coordinator was Travis Bush, and I stayed there for a year. In the spring, Coach Bush left after that first football season in the fall, and then I kind of competed through the spring. Kind of saw some writing on the wall that I wasn't going to be their guy. I wasn't really on scholarship all that much, and then had an opportunity to go talk to Coach Coker at UTSA, and pretty much the rest is history from there.
So that had to be pretty nice feeling to get to play against Texas State year in, year out, right? Whenever you went over to UTSA.
Yeah, we only played them one time, and it was kind of a fun game because, one, we won, so that's always the better part of it. But two, it was a lot of the guys that I came in with and I redshirted with. So that game was probably the funnest game to kind of play and trash talk to, and kind of live up on those defensive guys that I was going against the Bobcats.
So you mentioned Coach Coker, and for those of you guys who don't know, because it's been a few years, some of you younger listeners, Coach Larry Coker won a national championship at the University of Miami, and he's coached a lot of All-Americans and a bunch of household names you see in the NFL and every Sunday. How was that playing for Coach Coker? What were his expectations like, starting up a program from nothing?
I think the biggest thing was that could have been the best hire that UTSA did. It was a big-time name, big-time guy, and just a great coach, a great man, very Christian, one of the best coaches that I think I've worked with. He's just one of those very genuine, and every single day he expected our best. He wanted us to get better each and every day, and I learned a lot under him, and he was able to impart some of his wisdom on me, and I'm forever in debt for giving me an opportunity to live out my dream of playing college football.
So, Eric, being a quarterback and going back to the offense that you and your dad like to run, I'm guessing you call the plays for the majority of it, but do you ever tend to want to go more gun or spread or throws versus just pounding the rock, being as you were a quarterback in high school and in college? Yeah, I mean,
it's you kind of, as a play caller, you got to see what the defense is giving you, and I've been calling plays for 2 years now, and I'm still learning. A coach once told me that in order to call the perfect play, you got to call a bad play over and over again and kind of learn from it. And so I'm still learning. But our identity is going to be that slot T stuff. We're gonna learn the power game, the sweep game, and then we're gonna find what our athletes are gonna do and what they can do, and we're gonna get the ball in those guys' hands. And I'm not gonna say, you know what, we're gonna run the ball 55 times a game. If they're giving us some passes, then we're gonna do that. We're gonna spread it out. We got some guys that can chunk the ball. We got some guys that can run and catch and do some special things. We got some linemen that big old kids that can block. So I think this year is going to be a pretty fun year because we're going to be able to do quite a bit. We're going to have our identity, but we want to be able to do the spread stuff. We want to be able to throw the ball, run the ball as a spread, and the same thing from under center. If we're able to do that, then that's just that much more that the defense has to prepare for. And and that's a good thing for us. And we're going to be a ball control offense and give our defense some breaks and let them rest up so that whenever we go back, we give them the ball, they're rested, and they're able to get a 3 and out.
It's definitely going to keep them honest. That's for sure. We talked to Coach Troutman down at Sinton, and Coach Soza. I'm pretty sure you're familiar with Mike down there. He mentioned your name quite a bit. But they're going with the same kind of philosophy. You know, we're going to run the ball down your throat, and what we're going to throw, we're going to be able to throw. We're going to throw when we want. We're going to dictate when we throw. I'm a fan of that offense. You know, you see these spread offenses popping up everywhere, and there's nothing wrong with the spread. I think we heard 70% of high schools in the state of Texas run the spread offense, and it's flashy. I mean, that's for sure, but it doesn't guarantee wins.
You have to have the right personnel for that offense too.
So and right now, the way you guys are set, and I've said it before, y'all are ready to win. And we just did our district breakdown for your district, and y'all aren't projected at the top. I'm projecting y'all at the top based on the numbers y'all have coming back and the new offense that you guys are putting in. And honestly, you know, it's going to sound funny, but the star power that you've got with you two coming back there,
and Gomez,
and Gomez, that's in my opinion, that's a couple mental wins right off the bat.
Is Vernia game, is that in Beeville this year, or is that going to be on the road?
I'm sorry, which game?
The Vernia game. That's the game for me that I would think would be the big one. I mean, I know every game's important, but you know they are the defending district champs.
That'll be on the road, and Vernia, they got a great program there, and I picked them to be the team to beat. Like I said earlier, we have 2 scrimmages, 6 non-district games, and we'll have time to get ready, and hopefully come that time we'll be healthy and ready to go. But yeah, we're excited. We have a lot of firepower. I think I got some young coaches on my staff that are they're just gung ho and eager to go, and it should be a fun year. Our kids have done real well this off season. As far as when I came in May, we implemented some of our 7-on-7 this summer. This summer the workouts have been great. Had a great numbers showing up, and now that Joel's allowed us a couple of hours a week to work with the kids doing football things, that's benefited us as well. And it should be fun. It should be a lot of fun, and I think our kids, they're setting some high goals for themselves. And you're right. You mentioned Mike Troutman. Mike, Coach Troutman, he was our center and linebacker when I was coaching in Sin back in the day. So I'm real proud of him and happy for him. And it should be a fun game when we compete against one another non-district later on this year. Yeah,
it definitely will be. Coach, we want to thank you for your time. I know you're pretty busy. Just like you said, you've got summer workouts going on, and I know you've got other stuff. You got your coaching, administrative duties, and whatnot. So we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. But again, Eric, Coach, thank you for your time. We appreciate it, and we'll definitely like to check in as the season goes on to see how you guys are doing, if that's okay.
Yeah, of course, Jacob. We appreciate it, man. Anything we can do for you guys, we thank you, and we're here to help you guys. And again, thanks for what you do for football in South Texas, and one day, hopefully, I don't think I've ever met you in person, but I would like to meet you guys and visit with you guys and talk football. That's always a fun thing to do.
Oh, we're always open to that, Coach. We're never going to turn that down. We're definitely going to take you up on that offer. But again, Coach, thanks. Eric, thank you for your time. We appreciate it, and we'll talk to you guys as the season goes on. Thanks again, guys.
All right. Our pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Justin. Thanks, Jacob.
You bet.
Everywhere I go, always getting in trouble.
Okay, that was Chris and Eric Sosa from the Beeville Trojans. Guys, they had a lot of great information. It was a pretty interesting perspective on what it's like to come home to a place you've coached before and had success. We wish Coach Sosa and Coach Sosa the best this year, and we'll frequently keep up with them and check in to see what's going on. Next, we've got our 16 foray Division 1 breakdown. It's our first Valley breakdown. Guys, bear with us again. Like we said at the intro, we're getting our feet wet, but I think we provided a pretty good show. So we'll go ahead and lead into that. But before, a little break from Lone Star Gridiron.
You're listening to the Lone Star Gridiron Sports Network.
Rocket Man, the story of D.W. Rutledge and the Judson High School football dynasty, is a must-read. It provides complete coverage of every game coached by Rutledge, but more importantly, tells the stories of the impact he has had on the tens of thousands of students, parents, coaches, administrators, and fans. Dr. Charles Breitup and Chris Daly, both well-known in the Texas high school football community, joined forces to tell this much-needed and inspiring tale. Get your copy now at rocketmanbook.com.
Okay, guys, today we are doing our first episode of our expanded coverage. We are now going to cover another big foray, District 16 4A Division 1. This is the Valley schools, right? Starting from Kingsville, working our way down south all the way to, I wouldn't say all the way to, because Zapata's kind of to the west a little bit.
Rio Grande City,
right?
Grula.
Somewhere out there, right? It's one of those schools. We're going to tackle the 16 4A Division 1 breakdowns today. And obviously, we aren't that familiar. We're calling us out right now. We are not that familiar with what's going on down there outside of La Feria.
We're trying to get there.
We're getting there, right? Little by little. So bear with us. And this is where I know you RGV guys, you love high school football. So this is your chance to chime in and give us some feedback. Tell us we're wrong. Tell us we're way off. Tell us about some up and comers that are coming up on these teams that we're missing. We may have lost our Valley connection right now. We're still up in the air on that, so we're still kind of winging it as we go. So, without further ado, the Hidalgo Pirates.
Return 22 players, losing 14. 8 on the offensive side and 7 on the defensive side on a team that went 0-4 last year in district and 2-8 overall.
Head coach Monty Stumbog, right? Right now with the numbers, it sounds like it's you sound like you're walking into a pretty good situation.
They talked to him, and he does think that they're due for a breakout season.
I do too. I mean, just based off the numbers.
Numbers.
Are they going to come in and knock La Feria off the throne? I don't think so. But it's another one of those districts like 15-4A where you've got a 5-team district, and it's going to be a scramble to get that last spot, right? So I think last year we didn't cover Hidalgo last year. We didn't talk about them at all last year. They could have had a very young team.
And that's what it sounds like. You know, they got quarterback Angel Lopez coming back off of he threw for 1,000 yards and 1,082 yards, had 12 touchdowns passing, and he's going to be back there in the backfield with.
Can you read it?
Chris Delgado, 652 yards and 6 touchdowns total in just 6 games a year ago. So Delgado seems like he went down with an injury. Defensively, you're going to have Robert Toledano, 115 tackles and is the leader of a veteran defensive unit. So I think going through trial and tribulations, they were 2-8 last year, 0-4 in the district. You would hope they have some breakthrough.
I may have to take my initial assessment back. looking at their records for the past 3 years, they were back in 2016. They were 1-9. 2017 they were 0-10. Yeah.
I'm backtracking.
Yeah, I'm saying it right now. I'm backtracking. I think this may be your 5th place team this year. They've got some good numbers. Maybe they'll win more than 2 games. That's me. Maybe they'll win more than 2 games. Who they got on the preseason slate, Tim?
Far Valley.
Valley View?
Yeah. Lyford.
Okay.
Port Isabel.
Okay.
Rio Hondo.
Okay. Yeah.
Progresso.
It doesn't get any easier. I mean, those are small. They're 4A D2 schools, but they're pretty decent teams. Port Isabel, last year's team, took our West Oso, which was a very good West Oso team, down to the wire. I think they went into the overtime for that playoff game. So we know that Port Isabel team's pretty good. Coach Strunk's got them coached up pretty good down there. So, I don't see any change this year for Hidalgo. I had an optimistic look till I looked at the history.
Yeah, tough slate for the Pirates, but you never know.
Yeah, you never know. But
you would think bringing those kind of numbers back, they would have a little more. I think they'd have a better season than last year.
Yeah,
but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. And they've got. How do you get a 0.5 in your enrollment? You got a half kid in there. The enrollment's 1,049.5. All right, next up we've got Kingsville King.
A little closer to home,
right in our wheelhouse. Hey, looking at that, sorry, they have the biggest enrollment in their district, Hidalgo. So they've got the kids. The kids. So not by a lot. I mean, 1,049 compared to 1,039 at La Grua. Yeah, so it's interesting. Let's see what's going to happen. Right. So back to Kingsville. Coach Teddy Carrier, 18-17 coming back. 6-8 coming back on both sides of the ball. 5-6 by district finalists. 2-2 in district.
14 starters off of a playoff team from a year ago. That's the key piece for me.
Yep. Hey, Kingsville just hired a new coach. Their athletic director. Right, that's coming from Laredo. We talked about it with Jeff. It was just that hire the day before when Dubrov came on the show. He's not the new head coach, is he?
I'm not sure.
For who? What?
For Kingsville.
Carey departs Kingsville after 5 seasons.
Yep. Okay. So
to take on a job at Cypress Ranch.
So what's the new coach's name? Is it in there?
Laredo College head baseball coach and ex-Tuloso-Midway assistant coach Mike Davila.
Yeah, Mike Davila. That's it. So Mike Davila's coming over from LCC, Laredo Community College, where he coached college baseball. And he's going to coach football. He's the athletic director. And he's going to coach baseball.
Wow.
Yeah, remember we talked about this with Dubrov.
That's a big role.
That's a very big role that doesn't give you a lot of time to be an administrator, to tell you the truth, right? Because that's actually what a head football coach or your athletic director is an administrator. You're running all athletic programs. And normally, depending where you're at, it's normally the head football coach is the athletic director. You got some schools where the basketball coach or in some instances the baseball coach is the athletic director.
So they're
sticking in that one sport.
Yeah. So looking at the personnel that Kingsville is going to bring in, right, for the first year head coach Davila, who seems like he has a lot of experience, right?
Yeah.
They don't have a quarterback off of 14 returning starters. They're looking that they're going to use Terrence Carter, who was a running back and defensive back last year, who piled up 561 yards and 4 touchdowns receiving. He's a big play threat, but there's no main guy that's their quarterback coming in. So to me, even with numbers of 6 on the defense and on the offense side of the ball, that's a pretty big issue. So I would assume they'd probably use him similar to what we saw at Veterans Memorial as a David Soto.
It could be, so you could have a running back who's playing quarterback, essentially.
And that's not always a bad thing, but it is tough when you're trying to win a district title with a new head coach and you have LaFeria in your district who's bringing back, honestly, better numbers.
Yeah, and with that, let's jump into LaFeria, right? So they've got Oscar Salinas as the head coach, 29-31 coming back, 29 returning, 31 lost, 9-7 on both sides of the ball for 11-2 regional semifinalists, 4-0 in district, right? So these guys were king of the hill last year.
Dorian Hernandez.
They lose Dorian Hernandez, a 1,600-yard passer and a 1,200-yard rusher.
They're not losing him.
Oh, no, he's back.
He's back.
That's right. Okay, so, last year, Hernandez finished with 1,600 yards passing, 1,200 yards rush. These are pre-playoff numbers. If you're going to yell at us for stats, yell at Max Preps, because that's where we're getting these numbers from. Okay? Don't yell at us. Don't shoot the messenger.
Numbers.
Send us the updated numbers. I know you RGV guys will do that, right?
Yeah, they better.
And they've got, from what I hear, it's Eric Dickerson's nephew.
Oh, yeah.
Coming back. Is that true?
Avishai.
That's what we heard. Avishai Dickerson with 777 yards. He's the next leading rusher behind Hernandez. So they've got a pretty good 1-2 punch coming back on that side of the ball, right? We saw some film on him when they played here at Buck against – who did they play against?
I'm not sure who that was.
It was a playoff game they had here in Buck, and I want to say it was
Needville?
Is that who's on the schedule? Who were their playoff teams? Their playoff games?
Vernia and Needville were the only 2 games that were.
Oh, it was Vernia.
Was it Vernia that they played here in Buck?
Yeah.
Okay. So we saw some film. Pretty good runner.
Oh, yeah.
Very athletic.
Not as fast as his cousin.
Uncle.
3 returners in the secondary.
3
starters return in the secondary.
Which is pretty good, right? And it's led by 2 guys, or actually 3 of them, right?
3 guys.
Evan Avila.
The one concern they think is the defensive line, right? That seems what they've lost a lot of on the defensive side of the ball was their defensive line. But other than that, everything else seems pretty sound. And Coach Salinas, when talked to, thinks that he's got a very good veteran leadership amongst this group of kids. So I don't really see them falling off from where they were at last year.
I don't either. I mean, I think they're gonna. Who did they play preseason, Tim? Who was the other loss to besides that playoff loss?
Rio Hondo, 7-14.
And I remember that was being a big game in the Valley.
Yes, it
last year they were talking about that one throughout the week, and they may have been looking ahead at it for a couple of weeks, and because Rio Hondo had a very good season last year as well.
They did.
So it could come down to that game as well. We're not even the same district, right? Because I think Rio Hondo's D2.
Yes,
but still, it's one of those good rivalry games that it wouldn't be bad to get down to one day or so. But
they've got Raymondville, Santa Rosa, Mercedes, Isabel.
Raymondville had a very strong team last year, and that says something that they beat that Raymondville team. They lose a lot. We'll talk about Raymondville when we get into the D2 breakdowns. So their schedule isn't an easy schedule, and the fact that they finished 10-2 says something about the caliber of this team.
Definitely.
Or 11-2, I'm sorry. I'm with you. I don't see anything different. I think they walk away. They walk through this district. They can probably sleep through it, tell you the truth.
That's going to take you to La Grula, the Gators.
The Gators. Coach Abel Gonzales. 16 coming back, 15 lost, 7-6 coming back on both sides of the ball from a 3-8 by district finalist, 1-3 in district.
Every team has
They've got
a lot of returners coming back.
They do.
That?
Yeah, they do. And it's just like in the case with Hidalgo, right? I mean, is it just a fact of changing the culture? Is it a culture thing down there?
Yes.
Maybe they're so used to losing that they can't flip that switch, right? La Grua, they won one game in district last year. They beat the qualifier. They always beat Hidalgo for that last
three
spot.
games overall.
Right. So, I mean, how do you feel as a coach in that district, right? I mean, is that a good thing that you only have to win one game, or in the case of
might be lucky on the fact that you keep your job,
maybe, right? But it could be one of those things like what Jeff says, right? I mean, if you have a guy who's a good leader of men and can instill good values, I mean, how do you deal with that as an administration, right? So it's a slippery slope, or it's a very fine line.
Some schools don't put an emphasis on sports.
Yeah, right up the road.
Believe it or not,
right up the road, right?
They're academics.
Don't know a whole lot about La Grua. Not a whole lot at all. They've got a bunch of skill players coming back, which is good. It's good to have that nucleus of skill players, right? They've got Garza, Jesse Garza, who had 846 yards receiving, 17 touchdowns, 207 yards running, and a touchdown. So
they say he's the most dynamic player in South Texas. That's just what they say.
How south of Texas?
If he's that dynamic, I'm gonna ask the question. If he's that dynamic, how come he's not projected as the offensive MVP?
Well, you got Dorian Hernandez.
Okay, well, but if he's the most dynamic, right? I mean, that would kind of negate Mr. Hernandez there at La Feria, right?
We're not saying who put it out there. People at Dave Campbell's didn't say he's the most dynamic.
Where?
People at Dave Campbell's didn't say he was the most dynamic. So,
no, you are right. You are right. So it'll be interesting, right? And now that we're covering the RGV, we'll definitely keep an eye out for this kid and see what we hear, see what pops up, right? So I don't have a whole lot to say on La Grula.
No, that's just one of the ones you're going to see what happens whenever the season begins.
Yep. And we'll round out with the Zapata Hawks, right? Coach Joel Lopez.
Second place team last year.
Yeah.
In district.
And Zapata's always fielded pretty strong, decent teams from what I remember in the past. They've got 24 Letterman returning, 11 lost, 9-8 coming back off a 7-4 by district finalist, 3-1 in districts. And guess who that one loss was to, right?
La Feria.
What was that score in that game, Tim? How close was it?
To La Feria?
Yeah, against Zapata.
14-33.
Close enough, right? I mean, what was the average? I mean, are you still looking at La Feria's schedule?
No, I'm at Zapata's.
Oh, okay.
What was the score?
I wanted to see how many points La Feria was putting up. 34-14, right?
I can pull it up quick.
I just want to see how close they played them.
Pre or during district?
All of it.
They started scoring a lot more when district came around.
Okay. Was that their closest?
The closest was Rio Hondo, Laveria's.
Okay, but that wasn't a district game. But you said in districts when the points really started racking up, right?
Yeah. 14-3. Yeah, I would say that's probably the closest.
Until Beeville, right? Because they barely squeaked by Beeville. So
they put up the best.
They put up the best fight. They put up the best fight in district. Okay,
yeah.
So I guess
not saying much. But
yeah, but
you're doing better than everyone else.
Doing everybody else, right? So worthy of a second place finish, right?
Yeah.
So this was actually Coach Lopez's first year, right? Now they're going to fight for a playoff spot or the district championship, right? You took that first step. First year as a head coach, you came up with a winning season. I mean, you couldn't ask for anything more, right?
Well, the big thing for Zapata is the fact they got J.D. Guetta back, 1,900 yards and 15 touchdowns, and he gets his top receiver back who had a great year last year with 881 yards and 8 touchdowns. So that's major building blocks for the Zapata Hawks.
Oh yeah. And you've got 9 coming back on offense, so you figure majority of your offensive line's back.
One more coming back on the defense that La Feria doesn't.
They do. But I don't know if that one's going to make that big of a difference.
I'm not saying Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying I think Zapata's going to beat La Feria because I don't. I think it's going to go La Feria, Zapata, probably Kingsville, then Grula, and then Hidalgo.
I think that could be a potential game of the week there.
But it could be a much better game than 34-14.
Yeah.
Which in 34-14, I mean, we weren't there. We didn't see that game. That could have been a 21-14 game the whole fourth quarter.
It could have. Something could have broken. Something could have got an interception late in the game, or
kids give up once they figure out it's over. So you never know. I think looking forward to that game could be a big one for this district, though.
I think so too. It's definitely a game of the week candidate, depending on how everything works out, right?
Yeah.
Because football's a funny thing, right? I mean, I'm not saying that I wish this on anybody, but you can get a preseason injury in camp. You can hurt you can get
One
injury in
player
the
can change
scrimmage.
your whole season.
Yeah, definitely. In that
Especially
case,
when you start getting into these classifications, because the smaller schools don't have as much talent to not
the depth.
not as talent, but they don't have the depth to pull from a big loss like that.
Yeah.
Right? So I think that's where you start seeing like the drop off, and then that's what happened to Beeville last year.
Yeah. So so that's the district, right? Zapata. It's 5-team district. What do you guys think? How do you think this district's going to shape out?
La Feria, Zapata, Kingsville, Grula, then Hidalgo.
Tim?
Yeah.
You got any thoughts? What do you think?
Nah, it's.
But I'm actually
going
going to say the Zapata La Feria game's going to be close.
And Zapata again, and I think they're bumped up here is because they're almost in an island. Zapata's kind of out in the middle of nowhere, kind of like Hebronville. They've got 907 in their enrollment, right? So they are the little guy, right? 907. The next nearest one is Kingsville at 966.
That surprised me.
What's that?
That Kingsville only has 966.
Well, you
start losing players.
You lose kids to Santa Gratuitous.
Okay.
Right? You'll lose kids to there. Maybe you got some that go to Bishop.
True.
I mean, so you've got two other schools that could pull from your kids.
Because Kingsville used to be a pretty tough draw.
They're very good in basketball, but they lost their coach. We talked about that too. They lost their head coach. He's at Tuloso now. They did. For a while, they were kind of... Oh, at least when I was in high school, they were kind of in the dumps.
They were never world beaters, but there was a stretch there where they were putting some... You would think, with the oil field boom, kind of like how Alice used to be back in the day, they would have some... They've had some history. It's just kind of shocking to see that they fall to foray, and then they haven't dominated it either.
Yeah. Well, I blame it on the other two schools. They start pulling.
Yeah.
So.
Well, then don't you have King Ranch Academy out there?
Well, Santa Gratuitous.
Okay, that's Santa
Yeah,
Gratuitous?
it used to be Kingsville Academy, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and that's essentially the same thing. Yeah, Kingsville Academy, King Ranch, whatever you call it, yeah. But yeah, so you got those two schools pulling your athletes. Santa Gratuitous, coached by our favorite Dallas Carter Cowboy, right? Ivor Dillard.
Ivor Dillard.
Still got to chase that interview down. But yeah, so I'm kind of with you. I think my assessment may change once the season starts and I see how Zapata starts doing, but I'm with you. I've got La Feria, Zapata, Kingsville, and La Grula, and then La Grula, and Hidalgo. Sorry, Pirates,
Grula?
but La Grula, Pam.
Let's go with Gators.
Yeah. We'll say the Gators. Yeah.
RGC Gators.
Yeah, Tim, you're in agreement on this one?
Yeah.
Okay, that was pretty quick, right? So I actually we might be able to get both of these in one show. I think we're going to spend a little more time on the foray Division 2. But again, guys, thanks for listening. And we'll be back next week with our foray Division 2 breakdowns. You guys got anything else before we go?
No.
All right, man, we're out. Tell your friends.